Hello and welcome back to the Hoarder's Crafting Podcast. My name is Sasha and this is episode 52? 52. I'm going with 52, I'm probably wrong. Hello, welcome. This is my little alcove of the internet where I like to talk about all things crafting. I have knitting. It's all knitting to show you, but I have one crochet project to mention. I no longer have it with me to show you. I also have a knitting related object and a non-knitting related finished object that's going to be a nightmare to show. But we're also now into April, so I have my March stats to go over. As well as a sort of mini review of the first quarter and some fun goals I've set myself for quarter two. These are on top of my normal goals for this year. I'm going to jump in with the finished object that I can't show you because I no longer have it, and that is my crocheted coasters that I was making using leftover rainbow cotton. I have finished those. My partner has taken those into the office today to give out to his co-workers, so I can't show that, but I wanted to mention it because before I get into my other knitting related finished object and my whips, I want to go over March stats so as not to confuse any numbers together. So I keep notes of it all in a book like this. I've also got some notes written down. So March we had a little bit of stash come in due to my birthday haul, because I turned 30 this year, and when you turn 30 you get spoilt. So if it was a big yarn in month. It did mean that I am stash positive for March. However, I am still stash negative overall for the year. So my goal this year is to be either stash neutral or stash negative-ish. I'm not in any specific journey to reduce stash. I don't tend to have a very big stash because I am limited on where I can put it. I have this 4-cube unit and a set of 4 drawers, but the drawers has to hold my scrap yarn, all of my notions, needle sets, stuff like that, and the project bags. So I'm kind of limited on space, so I don't generally have a huge stash, so stashing down is not a huge priority. I'm more trying to stash down on yarns that I don't generally use all that much, like my chunky yarn. I'm slowly going through that in the process of making a blanket, and other things. Sort of tailoring my stash might be a better word for it. However, last year was a very stash heavy year, so maybe reducing it a little bit isn't a bad thing, but stash neutral is preferred. Stash neutral to me is 500 grams either side of 0. But we'll see where the year takes us. If it gets to the point where my yarn no longer fits in the storage I have, then we'll go from there. So in March I finished 5 projects. So that was my Tulster tee, the rainbow cotton cushion cover, my neon darkness socks, the rainbow cotton coasters, and my March Yarn Club squares. I'm not showing that project in my main videos. It has its own series, but it's basically my Super Effective Fibres Yarn Club for the year. Each month I get it. I terrorise everybody with my amazing singing, and make squares. So 5 finished objects, that's not bad. 2 of them I'd say were sort of bigger projects. So the toaster tea required a lot of knitting, even though it was not a lot of yarn used because the fingering weights. And then the rainbow cotton cushion cover used a little over 360 grams. So yeah. But in those 5 finished objects for March, I used a grand total of 741 grams of yarn. I know some people keep track of like meters or yards used. I just do it in grams because it's easier for me, because this is about as maths as I get. It's trying to work out how many meters I've used in a project. It's not going to happen. That would be wildly inaccurate for me. I know technically you could do it in Excel and have that do all the maths for you, but I don't like using Excel. And then yarn in. So technically I only have 2 entries for yarn in, because I had my Super Effective Fibres Yarn Club, which was 100 grams of yarn. But then I went to Stephen and Penelope, and yeah, I came back with 1,220 grams of yarn to add to my stash. 900 grams of that is to make a DK weight sweater, so once I start that should go down fairly quickly. I just haven't got around to starting that yet because I want to do a couple of other things first. Priorities. I don't know where I get about saying that because I've never got my priorities straight apparently, but yeah, you know. So that brought March's stash totals to a, total in equated to 1,320 grams of yarn. Now I only used 741 grams of yarn, which meant that March's stash total was positive 579 grams of yarn. However, I also calculated my year to date. So the year to date, I am still in the negative. I am negative 1,233 grams. Just for fun, I also calculated sort of the total grams used and total grams in for the first quarter. So grams in for the first quarter was 1,770 grams, which when you put it like that in 3 months, bringing in nearly 2 kilograms of yarn is... It sounds bad when you put it that way. However, I also used a lot more, because I used 3,003 grams in the first quarter. Admittedly, 2 of the projects, the majority of the work was done last year. 2 of the big projects I finished in January. But because I didn't finish them till this year, they count as part of this year. So, I've used, let's just say 3,000 grams of yarn this year so far. I'm going to say that's a fairly decent rate of usage. But, and here's the but. So we've now technically finished with the stash stats. However, I also worked out that April and May are probably going to be high income months as well. Because last Friday, Hannah over at Corner of Craft, she did a yarn pre-order for her yarn brand Chromatic Yarns for Stardew Valley, which I missed the first time. I didn't discover her until a couple of weeks after the original pre-order. But she brought that back and did a pre-order for it. And I may have bought yarn during that pre-order. It's not due to ship until the end of May, I believe, at the latest. Obviously, it might arrive sooner depending on the speed of dyeing and stuff like that. There is 2 colourways in my order, which means it's not going to be as quickly shipped out as maybe some of the other orders that are just a sweater quantity of 1 colour. But that's probably going to arrive in May. I'm going to say end of May, and that's 400 grams of yarn. So I don't count yarn in until it is physically in my hand, in my house, due to previous experience of yarn going walkies in the post. I'd still like to know where that yarn order is, but yeah, that was a complicated situation, which I'm not going to get into. But then on top of that, next month, at the end of next month, is Wonderwool. And I've already got tickets. Me and my partner are going to Wonderwool. We've been for the last 2 years. We're going again this year. And let's be honest. Nobody goes to a yarn show and doesn't buy anything. Unless you have amazing amounts of willpower, or you've just been dragged along as the husband, wife of a crochet crafter, knitter. You're going to buy something. And I'm not going to go there and go, I'm not going to say, you know what, I'm just going to drive 2.5, 3 hours to Wonderwool and not buy anything. It's not going to happen. And I'm not going to put a limit on how much I can buy. Like, I'm not going to put 8 grams limit on it. I'm going to go with a plan. I know what I'm going to be shopping for. I might not necessarily find yarn for every one of those projects. On the other hand, I might find yarn for every one of those projects, and I might come back with 5 big projects worth of yarn. So, yeah. April, the end of April. And of course, even though it's the end of April, it's still a good few days before May starts. So I have to count it in April. I can't say, oh, I didn't add it in until May, so April is a very low month. No, it's going in April. And of course, I'm also going to have my monthly yarn club. You know, I'm making a blanket with that. I'm going to be buying the yarn for that each month. I've already purchased April's. You know, so, but, yeah, we're already 13 minutes in, and all I've done is waffle, so, I'm going to go over my, second quarter mini goals at the end of the video, mostly because I'm pretty sure somebody wants to see some yarn at this point, and not just the beautiful yarn behind me. So, we shall get into my first finished object for April, and I'm hoping there'll be more finished objects for April because, but I have finished Nando. I have finished Nando the Nudist. I know he's technically called Nando the Magnificent, but let's be fair, he looks naked. And he's technically finished in the sense that I have sewn on all of the parts I can show on YouTube. There is another part that I have to sew on that's going to be just below his beard, but I can't show that on YouTube for risk of being demonetized. Not that this is demonetized anyway, but yeah. If you show something like that, even if it's not a realistic looking one, YouTube slaps a 18+ rating on your video. So, I finished this guy yesterday on the 1st of April. And no, I'm not joking, I did finish him on the 1st of April. Sorry about that, motorcycle went past. He's only been terrorising the street for the last 3 days. I wish he'd check his exhaust, because I'm pretty sure it's fallen off. But Nando the Magnificent. Or as he's known in my house, Nando the nudist. I did give him little arms, because I thought that would look cute. He has a black sparkly beard. He is naked. And he has a stripy hat and stripy cape. The stripes on the hat and the stripes on the cape are different sizes. I know that is going to mess with some people's head. However, there was no way I was doing 2-row stripes on the cape, because that would not have looked neat on the one side. So, but he's finished, and he used a staggering amount of yarn. He used 20 grams. 20 grams of yarn. So I still have enough left to make 2 more. I might make a couple more of these sometime this year. But I might swap out one of the colours to make it look a little more unique. But yeah. There he is. Let me just put his brim of his hat down. I think he looks adorable. I'm now going to go, after I finish recording this, I'm going to sew on his other appendage, and then I'm going to put him on my partner's desk. So, I mean, I suppose I could have put it on already, because the beard is technically long enough to cover it. But YouTube, I didn't want an 18 rating slapped on this video because he's atomically correct. But he's so cute. He's so cute. I'm now going to pop him down on there. Oh, in the base, I couldn't find anything like weighted stuffing. I couldn't find that anywhere, or a marble. So there was a couple of 2p pieces in the base to keep him upright. Although for some reason it keeps moving slightly, and he keeps trying to tilt backwards. So I also think the cat has poked at it. So by the way, you don't see the cat because it's not technically my cat. The neighbour's cat from over the back. She comes in on occasion. We do feed her when they're away, because they know she comes here, but it's not my cat. That's why I don't show pictures or anything, and I don't record when she's in, because she's not my cat. So, but I think the cat's knocked this over at some point, because she was in last night for a while. Which project shall I show you now? So that's it for finished projects. The rest of them are whips. 2 of them you've technically seen before. 1 of them you've definitely seen before. 1 of them you've seen before if you've watched my 12 cast-ons, but this is the first time I've worked on it since I cast it on. And the other one is a new cast-on. As I said, I have worked on both of my blankets. I've worked on the garter stitch blanket, but I've added like 4 or 5 rows, so I'll show that once I finish the cake. And the other blanket's got its own series. Once again, it's linked there or down below, or it's already been linked. It's somewhere. Let's start with the one that I cast on as part of my 12 cast-ons. And I know it's April, and I know tomorrow, well, technically today, if you're watching this the day it goes live, but at the time of recording, tomorrow is Good Friday? Good Friday? This weekend is the Easter bank holiday weekend. On I'll be honest, I don't really know what day's what and what the significance of any of them are, because it's not really a holiday I celebrate. I just go, ooh, chocolate. But yeah, that's about my extent of Easter knowledge. I don't really understand what it is. It doesn't bother me. But and I say this because these are my Christmas socks that I cast on. So one of my 12 cast-ons is technically a twofer, because there's going to be 2 pairs of socks, and they are going to be matching cabled socks for me and my partner for Christmas. And the colours I'm using for this are from Ainsworth and Prynne. I'm not entirely sure. This is sold by The Knitting Shed, and I purchased this yarn at Wonderwool 2024, the first year I went. Or was it the first year I went 2023? Have I been 3 times? No, I've only been twice. 2024 and 2025. This year's the 3rd year. 2023 was when I went to Junction 13. Anyway, by Ainsworth and Prynne. It's sold by The Knitting Shed. It is their classic sock, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. You get 365 meters per 100 grams. And I am using the colours Strawberry. That's blowing out. Strawberry. It's a lot darker in real life. I don't know how well it's going to come from the screen, but my camera is making this look a lot more neon than it actually is. It's a very dark tonal red. But yeah. Kind of. The sun's out. For the first time in a few days, the sun is actually out. But I'm using the colour Strawberry and Tide. That is also not colour accurate. This is a very rich, moody colour. There's a very rich, moody set of colours. They are deliberately not Christmas colours. I could have got a green instead of the blue, but I wanted them to be slightly more wearable rather than just once a year. However, the first time these will get worn will be on Christmas, when I present my partner with a pair of socks before he gets out of bed going, please put these on. He knows about these, so I finally cast them on. We are away. So when I finished on the first day of cast-ons, I had finished the cuff. I'm now about halfway through the first cable repeat. The cable repeat is out of a Stitch dictionary I own. I'll put the picture here, as well as the name of the book and the author. It'll also be, if not linked, at least the name, author, and ISBN number will be down there. But yeah, so this is the first sock still. This is still the first sock. I've done the first half of the cable repeats. And I've also started with my partner's socks. My partner has very big feet and very wide, with very, very particular preferences on how long he likes his leg. So by starting with his sock, I can knit his to the exact size he likes. And then when I come to knit mine, because I will be reversing the colours, the blue will be the cuffs, heels and toes on mine. If I don't have quite enough blue, I can just skip the heels. But this is looking really nice. So I picked a double diamond cable for the main cable, and then on either side to make up the first half of the sock, I have done a 3x3 twisted cable, which they mirror each other, so they're not both like three stitches held to the back, knit three off cable needle. One's 3 at the back, one's 3 at the front, if you know how cables work. So I'm enjoying these. I only worked on these for one night. I fancied a bit of cabling, so I got these out and started it. And now that it's established, I'll probably work on them more, because I kept putting it off because I was like, oh, I've got to do a bit of maths, I've got to work it out, I've got to get it all set up and established. It's now set up and established, so I have absolutely zero excuse not to work on these now. And to be honest, the cable is relatively easy. It's simpler than the cables on this, or the patterning on this. And I've just realised I haven't told you what I'm actually wearing. This is my Elizabeth I jumper by Alice Starmore. I finished this last year in order to wear it to Wonderwool. This has a bunch of texture, cable and lace. And I'd say the cabling on this is maybe on par, if slightly simpler than this. So, that's that. The yarn I used for this is Virtual Yarns Hebridean 2-ply in the colourway Kaluna, which is a very dark, rich green, which is also being blown out slightly, but yeah. I will say, this pattern, it's not size inclusive. This is the biggest size, and I think I needed to add stitches because it's not size inclusive. Yeah. But whip number 1. Whip number 2 is a new cast on. Anybody recognise this bag? It's one I've made. But there's always a project in this every week. So yes, this is a pair of socks. These are my April socks, and I am using. Let me just get the. So I've got a decent amount of progress on these. I have started the heel. But these are going to be my April socks. One of my goals for this year is to knit 12 pairs of socks. That at least 12 pairs of socks. That kind of equates to a pair a month generally. And these are my April ones. I did start these in March. I'm not doing this whole I can't start until the 1st of the month. The goal is to finish a pair within a month. It doesn't matter when it's cast on. I mean, if I happen to finish these in, say, June, then these will count as my June socks, because that's when they're finished. These won't be finished this month, I can tell you that for nothing. But these are the socks I aim to have finished in April. And I am using, so the cuff is done in a mini that I got from Mothy and the Squid. It was a free mini skein with a purchase. I'm assuming it's just called black, but there's no actual name on this label. And then this main skein colourway is from Laura at The Lonely Knitter. She also runs Folk Yarn Studio. She's also the organiser of the East Anglia Yarn Festival. And this is from her All of Time and Space collection, which I believe was her 2024 advent that she then released as a pre-order in January of last year. That's when I ordered this anyway. And this colourway is Trying Not to Fail. I'm pretty sure it's a Doctor Who. It was a Doctor Who. I don't know why else it was why, but it was a Doctor Who themed collection. I got 4 colourways on the Twisty 50s, so these are only 50 gram balls. And I am, because I only got 50 grams and it usually takes 60 grams to make a pair of socks for me, I have made shorter legs. So I have 20 rounds of 2x2 rib in the mini, 45 rounds for the leg in the main skein, and then my usual heel flap gusset. I will probably do the toe in the main colour because I've only got 10 grams of the mini, and I'm pretty sure that used 4. So I could weigh how much I had left, but it's looking quite shrunken. So, and this is the main skein caked up. So I do have plans to turn the other 3 of these into socks of a similar shorty kind of sock. I had originally planned on making like a stripy tank top with them. However, the colours are too variegated to really work striping them together, in my personal opinion. Somebody else might love that look on as a stripy one. Not quite for me. I like a bit more of a definitive solid stripe. But I will happily wear these as just plain variegated socks. No issue. And it does feel quite nice. So yeah, that's these. And it's only the 2nd of April at the time of recording, so the fact I've already got to the heel is good. It's good. I do have a couple of appointments and meetings next week, so these will probably get some work then. If you can hear any background noise, I live on a main road. My house is right on the pavement. I don't have a front garden, and there's currently a lot of teenagers walking around, being rather loud, which, hey, at least they're not trying to knock my bleeding door down like they were the other night. Some kids thought it'd be funny to basically body slam into my front door and then run off. Except I've got them on camera because I have a Ring doorbell and it's a it's got knock detection. So if it feels a vibration, it turns the camera on and stores the last minute's worth of footage. So I've got a very nice image of the kid body slamming my front door for fun. But yeah, it was the only downside when we bought this house, was that it's on a main road with no front garden. So, but anyway, waffling. I'm still waffling. There we go. My April socks, my new cast on, and project number 2. And project number 3 is a garment. I'm working on a garment. I worked on the same garment 2 weeks in a row. And it's for me! So, that looks so blue. It's not that blue, it's green. Anyway, this is my In Between Dreams cardigan. And I have put another 6 rows. I believe 6 rows I've added onto this. I have completed the next set of increases, and in fact I think I'm only 2 rows away from the next, which means I've only got that one and one more increase round. I am almost halfway through the lace chart. Oh, that's looking very sucked in, like it's rib. It's not. It's lace, so it's looking quite sucked in. It'll open up with blocking, I have no doubt. But there is an up close of the lace detail. So it's got like a fully lace yoke, and then it's stuck in it from the bottom. I'm sure there's already a picture up. Or is it that side? It might be this side. It's one side. So the yarn for this is, I'm pretty sure it's discontinued because there's only like 2 colours that I can find left in stock anywhere. And it is the Rowan Valley Tweed in the colour Janet's Foss. And I am still loving this. I'm looking forward to having this to wear. I've got a nasty habit of making a lot of stuff for other people and not enough stuff for me, and this year I'm trying to focus on knitting more stuff for me. Even though you've seen a pair of socks and a finished gnome for my partner, I'm trying to focus a lot on me this year, knitting wise. So it'd be nice to have more finished objects that I can wear, and this is one of them. And this yarn has been in stash to make a cardigan or make something for the last 4 years. I got this in June 2022. Yeah, it must have been 2022. It can't have been June 2021. We were all still in lockdown. We hadn't fully come out of lockdown. Anyway. Did I get this in 2023? It doesn't matter when I got it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I bought this from the NEC, from the craft show. Actually, that might have been the Christmas craft show in 23. Because I'm pretty sure I was with my partner and I bought it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's yarn. It's yarn that I bought at NEC. So, but we're slowly getting somewhere. I know it doesn't look like much yet, but this is a lot of knitting. There is over 300 stitches already, and I will be getting up to over 400 soon. So each row takes a bit of time. Plus you're focusing on lace, so you're trying not to rush through it because you don't want to make a mistake, because I really dislike picking back, pulling back lace. It's not pleasant, it's not nice. And I could put lifelines in, but I'm not going to put a lifeline in every other row. So there's that one. Not tons to say, like it's 6 rows. It's a lot of knitting, but it's not a lot of progress. So, but I'm enjoying this at the moment, so I will continue working on this. and if I start to get a little bit bored, I will rotate it out with something else and pull it back out when I feel the urge again. And that is my whips for this week. I'm now going to talk about a different craft, if you can call it a craft, and I technically have a finished item and a new item to show. I like jigsaw puzzles. I don't know if anybody was around back near the beginning when I showed a bunch of cottage jigsaw puzzles I've put together, stuck together, and have hanging in my hallway. I have finished another one of those. I actually have the box here, but the plan eventually is to have 12 cottage puzzles, 3 for each season, and then we can rotate them out each season. That's the goal eventually. Currently it's just 3 up that I've already done and already stuck together. This one is definitely a summery one, so it can go up in the summer. And this is the box. And I will insert a picture of the finished puzzle on my coffee table for people to see. And at some point I will buy, well, I know where I'm going to go. I've got to get more of the glue to stick it together with. I'm going to be picking that up tomorrow when I go to Maryhill, because apparently I'm insane. I want to go to Maryhill on a bank holiday Friday during the Easter holidays. But yeah. And then while doing this jigsaw, I stumbled across another jigsaw on Vinted that I had to get for my knitting corner. So I will eventually do this one and stick this together to hang up next to my crafting space, because it's this one. It is the Vintage Knitting and Crochet puzzle by Ravensburger. That's probably not how it's pronounced. It's probably some kind of German pronunciation, but I'm going to call it Ravensburger. I think this is so cute. It is really pretty. I've got another knitting themed puzzle somewhere in my loft to also do, which I can then use to cycle between these two, because yeah. So a new item. I did buy this off Vinted for like £3. So I generally don't buy jigsaw puzzles new, because I know I'm just going to stick them together once I've done them and stuff. I tend to buy them second hand so that somebody else has had the joy of them first and put it together, taken it apart, before I then get it, stick it together and put it on my wall. I will say, however, the person I bought this off separated the edge pieces. Why? Why do you take the joy of searching through all 1,000 pieces? One of my favourite parts of doing a jigsaw is getting it all set up and going through and finding the edge pieces. So why send it out in 2 plastic bags? Just put it in the one. In fact, I'm going to pop this in here for now. However, when I come to do this jigsaw, I will empty the edge pieces into the big bag and mix it together so that I have that joy of searching and digging through for the edge pieces, because that's one of the best parts. Why? Anyway, I've been waffling for an awfully long time already, so I'm going to very, very quickly go over my mini goals for the second quarter of this year. So, April, May and June. I don't know how realistic these mini goals are going to be, given I'm hopefully, if all goes well and all goes to plan, I am scheduled for surgery in May. If the NHS doesn't completely lose its shit between now and then, and that gets delayed again. So these goals might not be realistic. But I would like to finish a large garment. That's one of my goals. Finish a large garment. And when I say large garment, I mean something with long sleeves. Because I have rage knit a tank top in a week in the past. So I would like to finish one of my larger garments, so something with long sleeves. So mini goal number 1. Mini goal number 2 is to finish 2 longer running projects. So for me, longer running projects means anything that's been on the needles for more than 2 months. So it does give me that push to work on some of the older projects, but also, you know, it's not like I have tons of really old projects anyway, but 2 of my longer running projects. So anything started before February would be nice. And then I have a bonus goal. So if I achieve both of those mini goals in the second quarter, my bonus goal is to get my Kerr sweater cast on. So that's using the birthday yarn, the DK weight birthday yarn I got from Stephen and Penelope. So goals. Like I said, those are mini goals. Like, I'm not going to hold out. I'm not going to stringently stick to those in the same way I'm trying to stick to my 2026 goals. They're just to try and keep things a bit fun and give myself a bit of a push. So it'd be nice to finish a long-sleeved garment by the end of June. You know, just in time for the hot weather, so I can really get my use out of that long-sleeved garment. But other than that, that is everything. A little bit of life stuff, I suppose. Me and my partner celebrated our 5th anniversary on the 28th of March. Been together officially for 5 years. We've known each other for a few years before that. But 5 years we've been together now. So he bought me flowers. I also bought him flowers, but I kind of bought DIY flowers. I bought him the Lego roses bouquet, and he brought me a big bouquet of flowers, including my favourite, or one of my favourite flowers, which are lilies. Which apparently he completely remembered. Completely by accident did he buy me the lilies. But it's fine. I just like flowers. And I don't really suffer too much from hay fever. We think it's a specific tree pollen or something, that because I don't get it every year. It's just some years I'll just randomly have a runnier nose or an itchier nose than normal. So, but otherwise, this week has been boring? I wouldn't say it's been boring. We celebrated our anniversary, we spent the day together, we went out for a meal in the evening. But otherwise, the past week has just been sort of normal. You know, the same old routines. Like, nothing good, nothing bad. Or should I say nothing great, you know. It's just been one of those, like, normal weeks, you know. I don't live a very exciting life, you know. I sit and I knit. In my spare time, I go to the gym, I do fitness classes, I cook dinner, you know, do housework. It's just been a week. Like, it's not been a week. It's not been a week. It's just been a normal week. Just normal. Yeah. Which isn't exactly interesting or exciting to talk about on the internet, but it's just been a week. And I think more people just need to embrace just normal, mundane, boring life, because mundane, boring life is quite nice. And with that, I shall leave it there for this week, because I have been talking for over 50 minutes. And I hope to see you next week. Bye, guys.